Hello there, my name is Jim and I'm going to be walking you through some basics on the vector sequencer. Let's start with a very high-level panel tour. Along the top we have a bunch of jacks. These are all your inputs and outputs. You can see I've already patched in pitch and gate for parts 1 and 2. Below that we have a bunch of buttons. The run button is on the left, and then we have a row of buttons for accessing different edit modes. Below that we have two large OLED displays. Show you what you're working on. To the left of that we have an encoder. We call this encoder number 9. This is for editing several values at one time. The main 8 encoders are right below the OLEDs, and just between the main encoders and the OLEDs there are 8 LEDs to show you what step you're on. Below the main 8 encoders we have a little mini keyboard. It's a 1-octave keyboard, but it is also used for various different functions. For example, the white keys can be used to skip or mute steps. In the bottom left corner we have some global controls. Globals to access preferences, part button, a shift button for alternate functions, and previous and next for paging through longer sequences. So let's start by going to globals, and there are just two settings I want to look at here, well, three actually. The tempo, which is BPM, and I know that the reverse video labels are hard to see on the video, but they're pretty easy to see on the unit. Tempo is BPM. I'm going to turn that down to 110. And then we'll skip swing and sync for now and look at key and scale. So on the vector you can leave the key and scale as chromatic in C, and then you have access to all 12 notes in the equal tempered scale, or you can pick a scale and a key. So I'm going to pick G minor, and then I'm going to push the pitch button so I can see my sequence. Now initially in a new project, which this is a new project, all of the pitch values will appear grayer than the step number labels above them. This means that those notes are muted, so when I start the sequence I don't hear anything. So let's turn some notes on. We can do this with the 2.0 software and later just by pressing some encoders. And then of course I can edit the pitches by turning the knobs. When I turn the encoder knobs, I can select from all the notes in the current scale, so G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, which are the notes in G minor. I can also hold down the shift key and turn an encoder to move that note up and down an octave, and that's what the little number is to the below right of the note name. That is the octave number, and that goes from 1 up to 8. So let's get this back to octave 5. Okay, so if I want to edit the gate time for these steps, I press the gate button, and I can make the notes longer or shorter. Also, of course, adjusting the envelope on my amplitude envelope generator. If I want to activate more notes, I can of course turn the gates on for those notes. I can also use encoder 9 to turn them all on at once. I can press pitch to go back to the pitch page and continue editing the sequence if I want. And then if I'm not happy with what I'm doing, I can hold down the shift button, and this gives me access to secondary functions, of course. And if you look at the white keys below the encoders, you'll see that there are little labels to the right hand side vertically, DBL for double, INV for invert, and so forth. We'll cover those in detail later. For now, I just want you to look at the one under encoder number 8, and that one's clear. So if I hold shift and push this white button, that clears out the sequence completely. So now I can go back to where I was, programming in a few notes. Again, I can use encoder 9 to turn some more gates on. Now, without using shift on the white buttons, there are three possible things I can use them for when I'm editing a sequence. And these modes are skip, mute, and select, and the names are on the gray buttons that would be G flat, A flat, and B flat on the mini keyboard. You can also tell what mode you're in by looking at the top of the first OLED. So right now we're in select mode. I'm going to press the skip button, also known as G flat on the mini keyboard, to go into skip mode. And now when I press the white keys, I can skip and unskip steps. Skipping the step is basically removing it from the sequence, so the sequence becomes shorter as you skip the steps in the sequence. So it's easiest just to understand by doing it. And if I want to unskip all the skip steps at once, I can hold down the shift button and press skip. Next up, for mute mode, same process. Check what sub-mode you're in by looking at the label on the top of the first OLED. Press the mute button. Now you can mute steps. And then unmute them manually, or hold down shift and mute to unmute all of them. Or if no steps are muted, you can use shift and mute to mute all of them, and then you can bring them back in manually. Now select is the third mode. Press select button. Make sure you see that indicator on the top of the first OLED. I can select some steps, and this allows me to edit them as a group, so I can use Encoder 9 now. So I can bring them all down. I can also hold down shift and use Encoder 9 to change the octave. And this can actually be a fun little edit trick. As before with skip and mute, I can hold down shift and press select to unselect all the steps. So that's it for this quick overview video on sequencing basics on the Vector. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the sequence control page.